Your son has returned. I bring the destruction of Olympus!
Find your thrill. Return to the time when Zeus betrayed.
Now I will show the true power of our god. Athena is dead.
Stop! This battle is just the beginning. We will help you defeat Zeus. The great war that is to come.
Why do you sacrifice yourself?
Kratos, the death of Zeus is within our reach.
Gaia speaks nothing but half-truths and falsehoods.
We were forged in victory. You challenge me, mortal? A god of Olympus? You have desecrated my kingdom!
In you, Zeus feared the destruction of all he stands for. A fear that drove Zeus to kill you. His own son, god after god, will deny you, Kratos.
There will always be another to stand against you.
They will fall as well.
Zeus must live so that Olympus will prevail.
The death of Olympus means the death of us all.
What more will you destroy? Prepare for your death, Poseidon. What will you do, Father? We will unite, and I will wipe out this plague. I will have my revenge. I will tolerate your insolence no more. I can hold on no longer.
If I help you, we will both. I saved you to serve the Titans.
Do not deny me my revenge.
This is our war, not yours.
Gaia!
I have lived as a warrior. I have died as a god. Having suffered the ultimate sacrifice, I have been denied release. I will defeat Olympus. I will have my revenge.
Hey everyone, welcome back to more Let's Play God of War 3, technically God of War 3 Remastered. Kratos has suffered double humiliation at the hands of Zeus and also Gaia, now in the river Styx, much different than it was in Chains of Olympus. We are going to be bogged down by all the souls of the dead, taking away all of our stuff. Just as was the case in God of War 2, where we started off with the ultimate power fantasy of having full health and full magic and a decent set of moves to play around with. God of War 3 gave us the same thing, and now we lost it all at the hands of the souls in the river Styx. Not only have we lost our magic and our health, we've also lost our red orbs. We don't have the Blade of Olympus anymore. Blades of Athena are basically useless now. It's time to start all over again, as we traverse Hades. The realm of Hades, as the title will come up in a second. There it is, the realm of Hades. The second major area of God of War 3. We'll talk about it after this big cutscene.
We are not finished, Zeus. The gates of Hades have never held me.
Death cannot hold those with purpose, Kratos.
Athena,
I have missed you, Spartan.
I don't...
My sacrifice to save Zeus has brought me to a higher existence.
You still appear to be an Olympian.
Appearances can be deceiving, Kratos.
So can the children of Olympus.
Perhaps. But remember, my death came by your blade.
My blade was meant for Zeus. Be quick with your words.
As we speak, the war for Olympus rages on, and mankind suffers.
Let them suffer. The death of Zeus is all that matters.
Zeus will not fall as easily as Ares. To destroy the king of the gods, You must seek the source of his strength, the flame of Olympus.
You once sacrificed yourself to save Zeus, and now you seek to destroy him? What has brought about this change?
I see truths where I did not before. Perhaps these will earn back your trust. These are the Blades of Exile. They will help guide you on your journey to the flame. Remember, as long as Zeus reigns, there is no hope for mankind. Destroy the flame, Kratos, and the very foundations of Olympus will crumble.
All right, we have a new ally, an old ally. Athena's back, and green. Welcome to episode 2. As you can see, our stuff severely depowered, but it's new and shiny, and hopefully it'll help us defeat Zeus. Alright, so let's talk about this a little bit. I mentioned in part 1 that I have some gripes with God of War 3's story in a way that I didn't really with God of War 1 and 2, and it's true. I'm not the biggest fan of God of War 3's story. God of War 3's story has... Well, let's go one piece at a time. I won't say all of it right now in part 2. I'm not a fan of the fact that we're just arbitrarily given another reason to start all over again, that we can't have Kratos be too powerful again. That once again we have a carbon copy of God of War 2 where we start off super powerful and then we lose all that, and now we have to start all over again with nothing. You know, I get it, formula, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but the context of the story demanded different, I think demanded a different solution to this. Ultimately, we're gonna start getting powerful enough pretty soon, and we'll be able to engage in epic battles once again. But if it was gonna be so soon that we would be engaging in epic battles again, and basically act like the depowering of the opening didn't happen, then why do it in the first place? You know, why not find creative ways to start Kratos off at a powerful place and make him even more powerful? I don't know. We got our first Gorgon's Eye back there. You noticed that instead of the usual set of 5 from the side games and Ascension, or the 6 that we had in God of War 1 and 2, now, if you want to complete a full set of Gorgon's Eyes, you just have to collect 3. There are a total of 12 Gorgon's Eyes to collect throughout the course of the game. There are also Phoenix Feathers that power up your magic. There are a total of 12 of those in the game, and spoiler alert, later on we're going to see the return of Minotaur Horns, actually the introduction of Minotaur Horns, since I believe this is the first game to introduce Minotaur Horns before they were in Ghost of Sparta. But, you know, chronologically for us, we played Ghost of Sparta first, therefore this would be our second time seeing the Minotaur Horns, and yeah, there's 12 of them in this game, so that's something. Alright, let me tell you a little tale about me recording the first episode of God of War 3. And I'm going through the options here. There's not that much to talk about. I'm just showing off all the accessibility stuff. Not that much, you know, it's a game from 2010, but what's there is there. Take advantage of it however you'd like. I got my hands on a brand new recording hardware, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pull it out right now so I can take a look at it. It is the HD60X, right? Game Capture HD60X, Elgato HD60X. Pretty good piece of hardware to record PlayStation 5 games. Now I can record at 60 FPS. It won't be at a 4K when it gets to YouTube, obviously, but I can play in 4K on my TV and enjoy games at 60 FPS as I record stuff for YouTube. So overall, a great piece of hardware. I had a hell of a time, and sure, I'm gonna say hell because we're in Hades. Why not? By the way, mysterious, beautiful song that's playing in the background there. We're going to hear more of that a little bit later. I had a hell of a time recording part 1. I had to do the entire opening with the epic the epic intro, and Poseidon, and Gaia, and Mount Olympus, and all that. I had to do that 4 times.
I knew you would be back, Spartan. Did you miss me?
The plains of exile will serve you well, Kratos. Use them to call forth the spirits of your exiled Spartan brothers.
We got ourselves the Arms of Sparta there. That is the magic associated with the Blades of Exile. As I said before in part 1, every single weapon has one magic attack associated with it. Blades of Athena had the Blade of Olympus magic vortex. I'm going to send you to the pits of Tartarus lightning attack. And the Blades of Exile has the Arms of Sparta, which is the only reference to Sparta in this game, really. Aside from people calling Kratos Spartan, we don't really talk about Kratos' association with Sparta that much in God of War 3, which is another disappointment, because we've really leaned in heavily on that in God of War 2, and we're going to retroactively lean in heavily on that some more in Ghost of Sparta, and we just don't do it in God of War 3. I know there's other stuff to focus on, but disappointing. And I mean, Kratos technically flooded the world, so Sparta probably was destroyed when he killed Poseidon anyway, so the fact that we don't talk about that or focus on that at all is kind of disappointing. Anyway, my story. Had a hell of a time recording part 1. I had to record the opening 4 times to make sure I had all the settings right, to make sure that things weren't lagging. It was... I really like the opening God of War 3. Technically impressive, epic in scope, fantastic music, excellent gameplay, very well paced. Not a fan of having to play it back to back 4 times. It was... oh boy. But once I got everything working, I was very, very satisfied with the quality of the video that we have, the video and the audio. Very, very powerful piece of recording hardware that I have in my possession now, so I'm very excited to be using that in the future. But holy moly, the first session of recording was just, oh boy, it was rough. It was real rough. We're about to come up to another encounter with an old familiar foe from previous God of War titles. First of all, we have some unarmored enemies there, but that's fine. They won't matter because we have Gorgons. They're back. Of course they are. It's God of War. It's God of War. We have to have some Gorgons in Greek Saga God of War. As with everything in God of War, very visually impressive. As with everything in God of War 3, I should say, very visually impressive. The Gorgons operate the same way they do in God of War 2. They have some new grab attacks, but they don't really damage you, so don't really freak out too much if the Gorgon grabs you. Just press L1 and R1. The thing that returns from God of War 2 is the stair parry. So whenever a Gorgon does the Gorgon stare, you can parry with the Golden Fleece, one of the only things that Kratos kept from his humiliation at the hands of Zeus and Gaia. So you can still parry back Gorgon stares and freeze everything in your general vicinity, as we did in God of War 2. God of War 3 is the only one of the 3 main God of War titles to not feature a Gorgon's head magic power. As I said, every single weapon is going to have one magic power associated with it, and none of those magic powers are going to be Gorgon related in any way. So these few Gorgon encounters that we have are going to be the only times where you will be able to take advantage of the classic staring and stoning of enemies. So otherwise, though, don't worry about it, because like I said in part 1, a lot of the enemies that you're going to be fighting are going to be the unarmored variants that we're fighting right now, which means that you can grab them, you can break them apart to drain blood all over yourself, and you can ram them into other enemies. So fantastic stuff. I don't know why Hades is laughing. I mean, we didn't take any damage. We did fantastic in that battle. Whatever. Moving on. What do I want to talk about next? Oh, I want to talk about some of the cut content in God of War 3, because God of War 3 is I don't want to say it's obvious that there's cut content, because this does tell its own whole story from beginning to end, but it's kind of obvious that there's cut content. You know, it's kind of obvious that not everything in this was
I have suffered enough, Spartan. Hades, he sentenced me to this eternal torture. My prison of tinder. But now that you are here, you can free me. All I have left is my bow. Please, free me, and it is yours.
not everything was the way it was probably originally intended to be.
The fire! It's too close! You fool! You'll burn me alive! Oh, I forgot.
Anyway, we'll get back to that in a bit. We have this little puzzle here with Perseus, a person who was in love with Persephone, who we killed. I don't know if he actually knows Persephone is dead at this point, but she is, but apparently still wants her help. I mean, to be fair, he's stuck there, so why wouldn't he want help, even if it is from Uz, the ghost of Sparta. Basic puzzle, you want to ram that big pillar with some bramble there in front of the Cerberus so they can light it on fire. Then you run back here to where Perseus is.
Keep it away from me!
Have him freak out a little bit. And we're going to be using the smoke from that smoking bramble
Oh, that was too close.
to make our way up to the lever and get on with the main part of this section.
What are you doing?
Alright, so this is kind of a gimmick section. We're sort of introduced to Cerberus enemies here, but not really. It's a basic fight with a gimmick at the end of it. You'll see basically we're going to be riding the Cerberus all the way to Perseus.
Please, I cannot die this way!
It actually doesn't fight all that dissimilarly to the Mole Cerberus from God of War 2, so you remember how the Mole Cerberus fought in God of War 2, you can check out the video for more on that.
Prepare me!
Either way, you shouldn't treat this as anything other than a basic battle. It's not a mini boss. It's not a boss. It's just a very basic encounter. Once you've done enough damage to the Mole Cerberus, you'll be able to ride it. It's not going to try to buck you off, at least not as far as I'm aware. It probably takes a really long time before it tries to buck you off, if at all. Just kill all the enemies in your way and make your way over to Perseus. Make your way to Perseus and free him. You know, in a sense, free him. So God of War 3 does suffer in some story aspects, but it doesn't suffer on a technical level. This game is amazing through and through on everything it does visually. It does it really well.
You have gained the bow of Apollo. Its fiery arrows will clear your path.
We're now introduced to our third bar, our item bar, the one that will be powered by Minotaur horns. And we've also gotten the bow of Apollo. It's going to be one of, I think 4 items? I believe 3 or 4 items that we're going to be using throughout the course of the game. The bow of Apollo is the most useful one. The other two, one of the other two definitely has its uses, and the third one, which I won't spoil, has practically no use whatsoever. The bow of Apollo is the one we're going to be using the most. It does little bits and pieces of chip damage to enemies. We can fire from a range, obviously, because it's a bow and arrow. And it is yet another option that makes God of War 3 combat so satisfying. We now have a long-range option, a very serious, excellent, good long-range option that doesn't do that much damage, so it's not broken, but provides us with with an option to go in from a distance. We got our first Phoenix Feather, again, 1 of 3. Unlike in previous God of War games, where in the main trilogy titles it was 1 of 6, or in the side games it was 1 of 5. Now it's just 1 of 3. God of War 3 really wants you to power yourself up as soon as possible, so you can get back to, you know, Zeus killing standard. Though again, if the game is so obsessed with getting you super powerful super quickly, then why depower you at all, instead of finding clever ways to make you more powerful with where you started. I don't know. I truly don't know. The melody is playing again. It's a wonderful melody, and this note explains more about that melody. It is this little haunting melody is one of my favorite tracks of God of War 3. I really like it. It's really good. It doesn't play that often, but when it does, it's, I don't know. It's very haunting. We get our first Minotaur horn here, again, 1 of 3. Again, the game is obsessed with getting you super powerful as quickly as possible, but again, if that's the case, why not just find other ways to make you more powerful based on where you started, rather than depowering you to 0? I don't know. Regardless, we're about to have our first encounter with everyone's favorite enemies from God of War 1 and God of War 2. The Harpies. Hooray, they're back. They're not that big a deal in God of War 3, thankfully, because we have the Bow of Apollo. We have a good long-range option. You can fire the Bow of Apollo to do chip damage, but if you hold the button down and fire it, you can fire one flaming arrow that not only burns the enemy that you attack, but burns things and enemies that are nearby. So you can burn one Harpy and probably get others with it. The burning does little bits of chip damage too. It takes a bit in chaos mode, but you can kill these things with just the Bow of Apollo. I will be going in close eventually, but Bow of Apollo is a very excellent option for you to consider. There's also an invisible wall here, so the Harpies can actually get you if you go into the hallway before the fight. So take advantage of that. Again, it's chaos mode, so even though you have options and this game isn't comparatively as difficult as God of War 1 and 2, things are still extremely powerful as you'd expect, because it is chaos mode, so keep that in mind. And with that, oh, look at that little rat. I never noticed that little low poly rat before. That's fun. Anyway, with that, we now have enough to power up our Bow of Apollo. And Bow of Apollo is the first thing you should level up. The items all have only two levels, as opposed to your weapons, which all have 5 levels each. You want to prioritize leveling up the Bow of Apollo before you level up the Blades of Exile in Chaos mode. The Bow of Apollo is just so useful and has so much range and so much overall use, and the enemies don't get that difficult for a little while, so you can afford to keep the Blades of Exile at level 1 for a little bit, but the Bow of Apollo is going to be super useful to level up as early as possible. It only has 1 level up. The level up is very simple, it just gives it more damage. You want that as soon as possible for your Bow of Apollo, to make it even more viable for the entirety of the rest of the game. Now we're going to come up to a little weird glitch here. We have a white chest. Not as important as the item chests, but the white chests are back. There you go. Anyway, weird glitch. I couldn't get onto this little wall here. I tried and tried and tried. Eventually, I just had to restart from checkpoint and hope that I could do it at that point. I open the chest again. I go for it. It doesn't work for a moment, but there we go. Finally. I don't know why it didn't work for so long, but it eventually did, and that's all that matters. It is the only restart that I have for God of War 3. And the last one I have for the God of War franchise. The only other game where I really had to worry about restarts was Ascension, because that one was technically the buggiest of the franchise. God of War 3 Remastered has some weird hiccups. We saw a couple of weird glitches in Part 1. There's a few more coming up in the next few parts. They don't persist throughout the entirety of the playthrough. I think Episode 5 or Episode 4 has the last one. Either way, there aren't that many, so we don't have to worry too much about any technical hiccups in God of War 3. They really happen to be in the beginning, and by the time we get towards the middle, they just stop completely. So I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it is what it is. We're going to be moving on to a new area. I paused there just to double check because I think at that point I forgot if I had leveled up the bow of Apollo or not, but I did, so I didn't have to worry about that. We're about to come up to another little cutscene that introduces us to the next area of the game. The next area of Hades, the big explorable area in God of War 3. I mentioned in episode 1 that we're going to be exploring only 2 major areas in God of War 3, and Hades is one of those 2 areas. We're exploring Mount Olympus and Hades to their absolute extremes. Every single nook and cranny that you can imagine from Hades that hasn't already been explored in previous God of War titles will be explored now, and every single nook and cranny of Mount Olympus that we haven't explored in the very brief snippets that we see of it in other God of War titles will be explored now. These are the only 2 areas that we see in God of War 3, and that's kind of disappointing. That's another thing that kind of works as a mark against it pacing-wise. Because of how God of War 2 was set up to make this the war for Mount Olympus, we kind of have to just stay on Mount Olympus now, which makes sense, but it's kind of disappointing. The developers had to give us at least one other big area to explore, and their solution was have us also explore Hades again. We got our 3rd Gorgon's Eye, so we're going to get our first health upgrade, was to have us explore Hades again. But overall, kind of disappointing. Mount Olympus is a very varied and beautiful area where you're never going to be bored looking at the environments that you're going to explore in Mount Olympus. Hades does end up feeling kind of samey eventually, especially since we're front-loaded with so much of it here in the beginning. As we gotten depowered and all that, it ends up feeling kind of samey. Anyway, right now we have these 3 trials to impress the 3 judges of the underworld. They're very, very simple. Don't equate these with like the challenge of the gods or challenge of the titans. This is very, very, very straightforward. I'm going to speed up because this first challenge is literally just kill all the people. Doesn't matter if they transform into the undead. Doesn't matter if they transform into dead people. Just kill all the humans, kill all the dead people, and kill all the hands. Just kill everything. Nothing here is really capable of doing any serious damage to you. This first trial is very, very easy. It is more a parody of the challenges that we had in God of War 1 and God of War 2, as opposed to actual true challenges. Trial 2, The Lost, is also very simple. It's said to kill the wandering souls before they're converted to Hades' army. That's a suggestion to make it easier for yourself. It's not an actual requirement. If they end up reaching the bars and transforming into true monster enemies, it doesn't matter. You're not going to fail if too many things transform into monsters. It just means you're going to have more of a difficult battle on your hands. But in some cases, you want some of these enemies to reach the bars because they're going to transform into unarmored soldiers. And if they transform to unarmored soldiers, Kratos can grab them and ram into other enemies with them, doing more damage and speeding up the battle by quite a bit. If you get any Minotaurs, the Minotaurs are not that big a deal in God of War 3. Again, in many ways, God of War 3 is easier than God of War 1 and 2 because you have so many other options. You have the Bow of Apollo at this point. You have the ability to grab soldiers and just ram into enemies with them. I mean, you see how much I'm stun locking the Minotaur by doing this. It's really not that big a deal if a second Minotaur pops up or dealing with that first Minotaur that is forced to pop up. This trial is really not that big a deal at all. We're already almost done. We only have that one soldier and the Minotaur itself. Again, we have the Bow of Apollo, so we have a long-range option. We can hold down the button to burn and do some extra burn damage, and look, it's already almost dead. This is a test of the limited weapons you have so far, but just a demonstration to show you that even at this point, you're still very, very powerful. Which again, if you're still so very powerful, then why depower you at all? I don't know. This final trial is also very straightforward. Just kill everything. You have a Gorgon to deal with. I would recommend you don't target the Gorgon itself. You want to you want the Gorgon to do the Gorgon stare. That way you can. Well, I failed there. So that way you can stone the harpies and force them to fall from the sky and shatter. Unfortunately, one of those harpies was out of range because, of course, they're such slippery little sharks. But once all the harpies are dead, a Minotaur will pop up. You don't want to bother attacking the Minotaur. You want the Gorgon to do the Gorgon stare again. That way you can just shatter the Minotaur in 2 seconds. And again, you want to keep this Gorgon alive. You don't have to, but it's easier to keep it alive. That way you can just stone all the other enemies, and then when the Gorgon is the only thing that's left, you will have an easier time just finishing the battle at that point. So, keep the Gorgon alive, let it do the stare, destroy everything else, whether through regular combat or just through the stoning from the Gorgon stare. The Gorgon really wasn't playing nice, but this is so early on in the game, it's really not that difficult at all. You're not going to take that much damage. I screwed up quite a bit in Chaos mode, but I still have health to spare. It's really not that big a deal, this challenge. This is coming from someone that didn't do that challenge that well. I still don't think that challenge is particularly difficult in any way, shape, or form. With it finished, though, we can now finally officially be judged by the judges of the underworld. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that cutscene and then move forward.
By the gods of Olympus and Order of Zeus, we are the 3 judges. Face your final judgment, mortal. King Aeacus has found you wanting. King Rhadamanthus has found you worthy. It falls to me, King Minos, to make the final decision. Your future is cloaked in shadow. The realm of the afterlife is not yet ready for you. Beyond that door waits your destiny.
Okay. And with that, we're off. Which, good that these giant stone men aren't trying to do anything weird to us and are just letting us go on. We already have so many things to kill and so much to do that we really don't have time to, to mess with more stuff. I say that, but God of War 3 is actually shorter than God of War 2. God of War 3, again, the evidence of cut content, is approximately 7 hours in length, which is equivalent to the original God of War's length. Not bad, especially considering how impressive and how much what you're going to be doing in those 7 hours. But according to an interview with Stig Asmussen, again the director of God of War 3, he said that there was cut content. The game was bigger in terms of footsteps, how long it takes to get from the very beginning, from Gaia, all the way to the very end. There were extra areas to go, extra enemies that were needed to be cut, and a big special battle at the very end that also didn't make it in. We'll talk more about that big special battle in upcoming videos, but it's very disappointing to hear more about it that didn't make it into the final cut of God of War 3, because it sounded very, very impressive. And God of War 3 is a very, very impressive title. It's just, you can't help in retrospect to wish for more. The original plan for God of War 3, David Jaffe's pitch for what God of War 3 was going to be, was interesting. I don't know if it would have worked, but it's interesting. Basically, the big final battle with Zeus that we're going to have at the end of the game, spoiler alert, would have been at the very beginning of the game. No big humiliation. Kratos would have done what you'd expect and killed Zeus, which would have created a vortex that would have sucked in all the mythologies, Greek, Egyptian, Norse, into one world. And in this world, Kratos would ultimately stop the people from believing in gods. I want to talk about that, Kratos stopping the people from believing in gods, because that idea doesn't sound like it made it into God of War 3, into the final version of God of War 3, but it did make it into the final version of God of War 3. It really, really made it into the final version of God of War 3. God of War 3 is basically... God of War 3 is basically the mythology about how mythologies came to an end. See, mythologies in general are these flowery, amazing explanations by the ancient Greek peoples about how and why things are the way they are, why the sun rises and sets, why it moves across the sky, you know, all that stuff. God of War 3 is a mythology about, in my view, God of War 3's meta is a story about a mythology that explains why mythologies are no longer a thing. We're going to talk about it more in other videos, but basically the idea of Kratos making the people not believe in gods, I think still exists in this Stig Asmussen version of God of War 3. It's really well done. It's one of my favorite things about God of War 3. The first time I played it, it's one of the things that has remained one of my favorite aspects of God of War 3, moving forward. But now we're going to have a cutscene introducing a new character, the person behind the haunting song.
Father?
Calliope,
Oh,
you are not my daughter.
no. But I know who you are.
You know of me.
They said you would come.
Playing with toys, Kratos. Show yourself, Hades. Another one of your tricks.
As usual, Spartan, you are gravely mistaken.
Face me, coward!
So eager, Kratos. Relax. Soon enough, we will have our time to play.
Okay, that was Pandora. She is going to be a very, very important plot point for later on in the story. For now, we don't even know her name officially, but it's Pandora, and there is going to be a lot more to her later on. But for now, continuing through Hades, nice and relaxed. Again, didn't have to be if we didn't stick to this whole Kratos being depowered in the beginning of God of War 3 like in God of War 2, but whatever. All these notes that we've been reading, the previous one was from Calliope, clearly. This one, I think, is from Callisto, Kratos' mother. That one isn't confirmed, but I feel like if the first one is from Calliope and the next one that we're going to be seeing is from another character from Kratos' past, then it makes sense that that second one would also be from Kratos' past. So, potentially, it is Callisto from Ghost of Sparta. A nice little tease for God of War Ghost of Sparta. A lot of teases for God of War Ghost of Sparta in God of War 3. By this point, Ghost of Sparta was well in production. It would be released, again, like 8 months after God of War 3, so clearly the team at Santa Monica, who didn't make Ghost of Sparta, was Ready at Dawn Studios, the creators of Chains of Olympus, who made Ghost of Sparta, but clearly Sony Santa Monica was working close with them and knew perfectly well what the story and all the characters and all the important things that were going to be in in Ghost of Sparta, and thus just, you know, place little teases and Easter eggs about it here in God of War 3 to entice people to get Ghost of Sparta. A nice bit of synergy there. A decent little bit of synergy. Now we have ourselves a big old puzzle room. It's very, very simple. We just got to get to the top and then get a thing and then bring that thing to the bottom. There's not much to it. So because there's not much to it, let's go ahead and find some more interesting things. There is one piece of cut content that's very interesting because it ended up making its way into another God of War game. Well, yeah, it made its way into another God of War game that came out before this. By the way, is a note from the boat captain. We'll eventually get Kratos' opinions on the boat captain in, what is it, Ragnarok? Yeah, in Ragnarok, the little journal entry where Kratos references the boat captain again. But for now, that is the last mention of the boat captain until Ragnarok. Anyway, there is a piece of cut content where one of the items that we're going to get later was going to be super useful for a special enemy, the Argos, 100-eyed foe that they wanted to implement in God of War 3 but didn't have the time to. It's interesting that they say that because it was implemented in God of War Betrayal. I mean, not the actual using a special weapon to blind the 100-eyed monster, but the fact that the monster is in God of War Betrayal at all is something that is not mentioned, but is interesting that they wanted to implement the Argos in 3D in God of War 3. They didn't. They consider it cut content, but it does live on the fact that the Argos was a thing that Kratos faced through God of War Betrayal, a game that came out before God of War 3, right? I believe so. Anyway, very simple puzzle here. We get the bramble. We have to push it into the smoke pillar. Enemies are going to try to blow it up, but they don't infinitely respawn, so there really isn't that much of a threat to them. So just make sure that you kill them all once, and they won't respawn, and then you just push the fire on as normal. They don't want to overwhelm you with a difficult challenge already in God of War. In God of War 3. Again, they don't want to overwhelm you, but why bother depowering you at all if they're not going to make... I don't know, whatever. I'm going on and on about that whole why bother depowering him in the beginning. Ultimately, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. Pushing the bramble. These enemies actually come from God of War 2. They're throwbacks. They are... Yeah, they appear in God of War 2. I think I'll probably link the video in a card or in the description or something, so you can see their original appearance in God of War 2. They have the same death animation here. They do the exact same attacks where they can attack with a sword from close up, or they can throw little fireballs, which are now blue instead of red. Interesting. Interesting. Gonna push the bramble and move on and get out of this giant puzzle room and move on towards the, I think the final room before we get to the end of the video. Pretty quiet video, no big boss fight. That's not going to be the case for most of these videos. A lot of these videos are going to conclude with big encounters or include big encounters in them. This second episode, because we're starting back from zero and we have to start powering ourselves up again, we're not going to have any big encounters, at least not in this video. Next time, though, we're already going to have another epic boss, and then in episode 4, we're going to have more epic encounters, episode 5, more epic encounters. This game doesn't slow down. There's very, very few points where we go slow, and this is one of those very few points where we take it slow. Anyway, I'm looking at a very interesting article. It's kind of serves as a sort of pseudo post-mortem for God of War 3. I'm looking at this, and it turns out Kratos on the PlayStation 2 only had about 5,000 polygons for his model. But now in this game, God of War 3, he has about 20,000. That's very interesting. This is the secret hand room. You get a trophy just for finding this hand room, I believe. You can kill everything here for lots and lots of red orbs. Once you kill everything, you have access to a free red orb chest and a free item chest. These are considered secret chests. They're not on the main path. As I say in every single God of War game, ABE, always be exploring. You never know what you're going to find. And usually what you're going to find is collectibles to make you more powerful early on, which is good, is what you want, especially in Chaos mode, especially in the highest difficulty of a God of War game. Moving forward, though, we have this lovely, beautiful hallway that loads in our next area. And this is going to be our final combat encounter for this video, I believe, right? Because after this we go to... Yeah, this is the final combat encounter for the video. Not these guys. Not those guys. Those guys you always want to grab and do the grab animation kill. If you just kill them normally, you don't get anything for killing them normally, but if you kill them with a grab animation kill, you always get 5 free red orbs. Doesn't It doesn't seem like it's that much, but early on, when things don't cost that much, you want to kill those wandering souls with the grab animation, just for free, for some free red orbs. Here's our last. Thanks for interrupting, Hades. This is our last encounter of the video. The Stone Men. They have a name. I always call them the Stone Men. Anyway, the Stone Men are very easy. You can block and parry most of their things. The bow Apollo really does work on them. Try to deal with them one at a time, and try to keep try to keep one of them alive. Well, you don't necessarily have to keep one of them alive. It's just once you kill one of them, more enemies are going to show up, I believe. So it's just easier if you get one to QTE kill range and then kill the other one, and then that way once the next wave starts, you can very easily just dispatch the second one very easily. Yeah, see, another Stone Man pops up. So normally the game wants you to be dealing with two at a time, but because I weakened both of them to the point of QTE, I was able to very quickly and efficiently dispatch of the second of three Stone Men that way. Once we get to the final phase of the fight with the three basic soldiers and the Stone Man, I can just very easily deal with this with zero issue, to the point where now I'm speeding up, because you know how this goes by this point. You've already seen me kill two of them. Everything they do can be blocked. Don't worry about parries. Failed the QT. There's going to be a special video in the special script link in the extras video that will lead you to QT fails that I found for all the God of War games. Yeah, check out the extras videos for all the God of War games. You can see QTE fails. You can see what it looks like when you fail QTE for everything in God of War. It's very interesting, very funny. Some of them are very funny. Some of them are just what you'd expect. Anyway, we have now reached basically the end of the video, right? Because at this point now we're just going to be running over to the next area, and then that'll be that. So I hope you enjoyed my ramblings and ravings of God of War 3. I really like this game. I have issues with it, but we'll be talking more about the things I love and the things I don't love all that much next time. We're going to be meeting another god, be introduced to a new area, and yeah, I'll see you all next time. We'll still be in Hades. We'll still have to find a way out. I wonder how. Alright, bye-bye everybody.
Leave me be! I tell you, I have paid the price.
Calm yourself, Smith God.
Ghost of Sparta. It is you. Well. I thought Zeus would have killed you by now.
I thought you would have escaped this cavern by now.
Zeus may have imprisoned me here, but you are the reason I live in torment.
I did you no wrong, Hephaestus. I pursue only one Olympian.
Well, as long as it's only one Olympian.
I seek the flame of Olympus. Do you know of it?
For what purpose, Spartan?
For the purpose I have chosen. Now tell me, do you know of the flame?
All true children of Olympus know of it. They've all come to respect its power, but don't be fooled by its enticing glow. Neither god nor man can touch its lethal flame.
I only need to find it.
If you can find your way out of the underworld, I'm sure you can find your way to the flame of Olympus.
You have been truly helpful, Hephaestus.